Hello everyone, welcome in, echohack, and I'm back here with some Diablo Immortal news. Blizzard has just published a blog post talking about the learnings from closed beta, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. From October of last year to early January, the closed beta was in full swing. Test participants had the chance to play a breadth of new content and features, including the Necromancer class, Cycle of Strife updates, set items, Heliquary updates, and controller support. Whether you participated directly in the playtest, sent us valuable feedback, or watched the game from a livestream, your input has been greatly appreciated. Let's join our game director, Wyatt Cheng, and senior system designer, Chris Zerhut. Chris, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong there, as they explain our learnings, philosophies, and planned improvements. Hi everyone, my name's Wyatt Cheng. I'm the game director of Diablo Immortal. Following this playtest, our team continues to make substantial progress towards getting the game into everyone's hands. We're still planning for a release in 2022, and today we'd like to share what we learned from closed beta, leading to critical changes around the social aspect of the game, raids, in-game purchases, and a Cycle of Strife overhaul and more. To kick things off, I'll take you through some general updates we're making following the closed beta. Let's jump in. General updates, social and group play improvements. Diablo Immortal is an MMO, massively multiplayer online game, and an important part of any MMO is the friendships you form and the sense of community you belong in. Our game's social communities start with parties, and we want to promote party formation between like-minded players to complete shared goals. Bounties were one system that led to a lot of group play, but also some challenges in beta. They're repeatable, randomly selected quests that you can complete in quick succession, earning bonus rewards for every 4 you turn in. During the closed beta, we received feedback that a lot of players who got assigned dungeon bounties felt like they were forced to group in order to complete them. Groupmates receiving that player often wanted to do multiple dungeon runs and would be disappointed when a player immediately left the party after completing the bounty. We'll be adjusting bounties so they're exclusively solo, and we're looking into making the Shadows contracts more flexible in the future. We want to provide concrete incentives for grouping, but we also want to empower you to choose whether you want to play all group, all solo, or all group content. Okay, this is kind of a weird way of putting it, but I understand kind of why it's saying here. So the actual thing you could do in the beta here is that you could get bounties, right? And some of these bounties would go to a dungeon, right? So you could do every bounty solo except for dungeon bounties. And dungeon bounties require that you group up. Not because the bounty themselves requires that you group up, but if you enter the dungeon itself requires that on Hell 1 you have at least 2 players, and on Hell 2, 3, 4, etc. have 4 players. So what we figured out what you could do is if you just wanted to finish the bounty for whatever reason, you could just group up with another player for like 2 seconds, start a dungeon on Hell 1 difficulty, and then the other player could just leave your party at that point and you could complete the dungeon entirely solo, which kind of defeats the purpose of grouping up for the dungeon. So this is kind of like how most people would do their bounties, like at the top end of the game. But there are other players who have goals, like the immortal dailies or like contracts to actually do more dungeons than just one. So what you ended up happening was like this clash between players' goals, right? Like some people wanted to do multiple dungeons, or they just wanted to grind like one dungeon, and then some people are just trying to do their bounties or trying to do their contracts. So anyway, this is an amazing change. I really hope that contracts and bounties are like this exclusively solo content, because I feel like there's a lot of things in this game that really are better when you're grouped up together or are required grouping, and there's not really anything that's like a required solo content. And so I think this is perfect for bounties. Bounties and contracts are actually some of the best content in the entire game. So having them be solo and just allowing somebody just to enjoy it, just to enjoy the gameplay, I think is perfect. That's a really good call. Let's move on. Raid improvements. We're excited to see many of you enjoying the Heliquary, massive 8-player raid bosses encounters that demand extra coordination to overcome. Our intention is to release one new Heliquary boss per month, but in order to provide more granularity and a better sense of progression, we're also going to provide multiple difficulty levels for each boss. During beta, a number of you expressed feedback that the gap in difficulty between the bosses, Lassal and Vitath, was too large, and this change, we think, the Heliquary will remain rewarding to all types of players, but also close the difficulty gap for those who may feel too daunted to play this content. We also heard lots of requests for better grouping, matchmaking, and raid management tools, and we're happy to oblige. The raid UI in the closed beta was a first pass implementation, and you can expect visual and functionality improvements in the future. Okay, so this is great. So first of all, we have difficulty levels for each raid. I think that's a really good approach, especially for when a brand new boss comes out. A lot of times it's too difficult for the player base. Maybe if you are an absolute Giga Blaster, you can be one of the, if you have 8 Giga Blasters, you can barely down the boss when it first releases. But if you don't have 8 Giga Blasters, then you have no chance. You'll just instantly die. At least this is what happened in the beta. So being able to ramp that difficulty up over time, I think, is actually good not just for casual players, but also good for the Giga Blasters too, because you have this real sense of progression when you hit a new raid tier or a new raid boss. Now, I expect Giga Blasters will probably outpace the new raid boss content. In other words, whenever you get the 3rd or 4th month of the game, Giga Blasters are probably going to be so powerful that they'll just go in and one-shot the boss immediately. But there's still going to be players that don't even start this game until 4 months, a year, until after it's released, right? So I think being able to provide different difficulty levels for different players is really great. It allows everybody to sort of engage with that in-game Heliquary content. The other thing here is that the raid UI was a first pass. It was pretty good. The raid UI was actually pretty good. You could add anyone, but there were a lot of little sort of side scenarios where somebody wouldn't quite get teleported to the dungeon correctly, or they were on a different instance, so you couldn't invite them correctly to the group, and it would throw some weird error. And that's specifically for the Heliquary raids. Now, there's other raids in the game, if you want to call them. So, for example, you have Kion's Ordeal, or you have the Rite of Exile. These are also raids in the game, and I don't know if what they're talking about here in the blog post actually impacts those, but I can tell you that Kion's definitely needs an organizational tool. So if what they mean here is that they have better grouping for Kion's, oh, that's so good. That makes me so happy. The other thing, they said the magic word here, matchmaking. And so there is a place in the game that really needs matchmaking, that doesn't have matchmaking at all. And that's the vault, right? Especially on the Immortals side, right? So basically in the beta, what you had is you had a situation where the Immortals would just line up outside the vault, and they would spam a grayed out OK button to enter the vault, because there was no queue system or matchmaking or anything like that. So what you really need there is you need a matchmaking system where people can go up to the vault, say, yes, I would like to defend the vault, hit a button, and then you enter a queue, right? And as soon as there's a vault available, then whatever position in the queue gets to go first, and then all the other people get pushed forward in the queue, right? That would be the ideal way to do that. All right, let's keep going. Battle Pass and in-game purchases feedback. Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be the big one, right? Okay. Our goal has always been to keep Diablo's core gameplay, killing demons and getting gear, accessible to all regardless of whether players opt to engage with in-game purchases or not. Purchases in our game are completely optional and should not detract from your gameplay experience. During closed beta, we received a lot of feedback on our Battle Pass and other in-app purchases. We're pleased that the Battle Pass is resonating well, and many of you finding the purchase to be a good value. That's correct. Yeah, the Battle Pass, specifically the Awakened. Is it called the? Oh, I forget what it's called. It's the Battle Pass that you pay for. Is a very good value, and it basically functions like a optional subscription to the game. In the Americas region, it was $4.99 a month. So I think that's like a really good value. That's a good price point. Like, they really, in my opinion, nailed the Battle Pass. You know, like, they should basically not change much to anything at all with how they implemented it, because it's solid. However, we saw that the Boon of Plenty was not as well received. True. I actually haven't talked about Boon of Plenty too much because it was so underwhelming. We're evaluating ways to improve the Boon of Plenty so it feels more valuable and worthwhile. Okay, so yeah, Boon of Plenty, I'll have an overlay on the video, but if I recall correctly off the top of my head, it was $2.99. And basically, you would get an additional rare crest every day, and then you would get like 300 eternal orbs, something like that, if I remember correctly. And an extra rare crest, what that functionally does, so a rare crest gives you, as far as we know, a 1 in 10 chance of getting a random legendary gem. So you get 30 shots at legendary gem, so over a month you get 3 more legendary gems for $3. Not great. Not great. I wonder off the top of my head how many legendary gems the Battle Pass gives you. I think it's like something like 10 or something. It's like pretty good. Yeah, compared to 3. And it also gives Scoria. So yeah. Boon of Plenty, not a good value. Lastly, we saw much frustration around legendary gems and their impact on alt play in the closed beta. So reading your feedback, this system felt like it forced many of you to be committed to a single character. It's true. Rather than splitting your focus across multiple characters. We're working on a solution for this concern, and it will be the focus of a future blog post. We understand that shareable purchased items or switching to alt characters feels underwhelming, and we plan to resolve that at launch. Okay, so the big elephant in the room here is that that is completely not addressed. So that's the end of this in-game purchases feedback. So the big elephant in the room that's completely not addressed here is that legendary gems are far too powerful, right? Like, ORDR needs to be completely removed from them, and then even when you do that, they'll still be extremely powerful, right? So this is definitely not the paragraph I was expecting to read. It does address a problem that I think the game has, which is essentially right now there are absolutely zero shared resources of anything. Paragon levels, gear, resources between characters, except I think literally eternal orbs and the purchase of the Battle Pass, although many of the things on the Battle Pass itself are sort of like a one-time redemption for one character, right? So they definitely could rework how alt characters receive and share benefits from other characters if they wanted to encourage alt character play. However, that also has a problem too, right? So like, let's say, for example, that legendary gems aren't balanced, right? And they still have like tons of ORDR on them, and you can just spend as much money as you want, and you can have a set of rank 10 5-star legendary gems, and just out of the gate have, I don't know, like it would probably be in the realm of like 1,200, 1,500 extra ORDR over anything. So what you could do then is you could take those legendary gems, assuming that you can share them between characters. You could take 1,500 ORDR on one character and, you know, like do a challenge rift and be the top challenge rift person on that character, and then give those all to an alt, and then that alt is now the number 2. So, I mean, assuming like that's how the system would work, right? So like, I think they definitely need like if they do this, there needs to be like some sort of like bind on character kind of thing going on here. You also have to think about here like sort of like some of the shared rewards too, right? So like, for example, if you can share legendary gems, then what you could do is you could just have I think you can have a maximum of 5 character or 6 character slots, right? One for each class. So if you can have 6 character slots, then you would have your main, and then the other 5 character slots that you have, your 5 alts, you could just do all of the daily things that you normally could do on those characters, which includes a daily rare crest and things like certain like weekly rewards from like the Hilts vendor and monthly rewards from the Hilts vendor and so on. And you could get all of those rewards, and then you could just funnel all of that stuff to your main. So do you want like absolute giga blasters, like people who are like super playing the game hard, to have like all 6 character slots filled and like kind of grinding all 6 characters so that they can like boost their main? You have to think about that as well. So there's not a lot of detail. Like, this is only like 2 sentences at the end of this paragraph. There's not a lot of detail there, but I can already think of like 10 ways that we could break some kind of system like this. We did it during the alpha, right? Like, we made multiple extra characters so that we could get around the XP cap, and we could just like blast up to Paragon 150 with no problem, right? So in terms of alt play, there's a lot of gotchas that we have to watch out for. But the other thing that I'm not seeing here is, you know, addressing the elephant in the room, which is the balance and sort of like the like lack of a ceiling of the ability to purchase legendary crests and rare crests forever, so that on day 1 of the game, someone could effectively just, you know, spend $100,000 and just absolutely boost to the stratosphere, right? Like, I think those like huge problems are still unaddressed, and hopefully maybe those are addressed in a future update. So let's keep moving on. Controller support update, yes. So if you don't know, Diablo Immortal has controller support, right? So you can play it with your Xbox controller. In fact, I have my Razer Kishi sitting here on my desk, and it is awesome. It is amazing. It's like playing a console game. It's not like playing a mobile game. It's like playing a console game or a PC game with a controller. It's freaking amazing. It takes Diablo Immortal from a like really good mobile game to being like a first class basically console game or a PC game, right? The controller support is incredible, and I can at least say that it has saved my hands. It's saved, you know, like carpal tunnel and like all sorts of like ergonomic concerns that I've had, but it also just makes the game more fun because you can sit there and like spam buttons and like really like play hard, especially in PvP and scenarios where you need to DPS really hard, like if you're trying to push LaSalle or Vitoth and the 8-man raids and so on and so forth, right? So anyway, let's read this. Last year, the community pleaded for controller support. We were happy to oblige, and the closed beta introduced a handful of compatible controller devices. Our goal is for the controller's presence to be detected the moment the game is launched. We want to handle connecting and disconnecting your controller more seamlessly and make controllers work in all in-game menus. We're thrilled by the positive reception we've seen from controller support in the closed beta. Nonetheless, the roster of controls in closed beta isn't our final list, and we still have a litany of polished items to further improve controller support for the global release of the game. Okay, there's a lot in there. So first of all, they're saying that they want the controller to be detected the second the game launches, right? So in the beta, the way that you had to connect your controller is you had to like start the game, you had to launch your character, enter the game world, and then you had to like tap to go to the settings menu, and then you had to go to like some sub menu, and then you had to like switch a little switcher, and then it would connect your controller. That kind of sucks, because that means that every time you launch the game, you have to kind of you have to switch modes, right? You have to like go to touch mode and be like, okay, and then go out of touch mode and then be like, okay, now I can play the game. So like that's just this like extra bit of like unnecessary friction that makes playing the game that much harder. So being able to like just pick up your controller and play from the second the game launches is amazing. One note here that I found really weird during the beta is that the controller doesn't unlock in the game until you hit level 2, which I found really weird. So you have to play the game in touch mode for the first literally 30 seconds of your character before you're allowed to use a controller. So I think if Blizzard is watching this video, don't forget about that. Make sure that you can play with your controller from the second you make your character. The very second you make your character, including making your character, you should be able to like menu through all of the options with the controller, right? Like select the different faces for your character, and then be able to enter the game world with the controller and start playing without having to go to level 2 first. So if they can do that and they have this like very, very seamless, like 100% or even 99.9% like controller support, this game immediately gets so much better with like full controller support. All right, let's keep moving. So, Warband Improvements. Our intent with implementing warbands was to encourage small, consistent groups of players to play together regularly. We wanted to provide you with the tool to find other like-minded players who share the same goals. So I've played Tech Alpha, I've played Closed Alpha, and I've played Beta, and I have not once used warbands, except to like just see what it was, right? Like we made a warband, and then we were like, we're never going to use this, and we never used it. So, let's see what they have here, because it sounds interesting. We're going to expand warbands to be for groups of 8 players, and we're going to look at adding additional features to really make a warband feel like a close circle of friends. We want to replicate the lucrative bonuses and incentives you already receive for running dungeons or Helliquary as a group for the warband system too. To all of our closed beta participants, thank you. We are grateful to have you with us on this journey as we work to make Diablo Immortal the absolute best it can be. Now I am pleased to introduce our senior system designer, Chris Zierhut, who will share a comprehensive update on how we're improving set items, Cycle of Strife, and World Paragon in Diablo Immortal. Wyatt Cheng, Game Director, Diablo Immortal. Okay, so there's a lot more down below, but hold on, let's jump back up to warbands. So they say that you're going to get bonuses for being in a warband. That seems really weird to me because, first of all, nobody I know has used warbands at all. Second of all, the way that you actually play this game is you play it with the people that are online, right? So, you know, if your friend group isn't online, then you just reach out to your clan channel or like your Immortal channel or your Dark House or whatever, and you just, whoever's online, let's play some dungeons together. Let's do some bounties together. Let's defend the vault together. Like whatever it is, you just reach out to like sort of this like wider channel of people, and that channel is how you like make your group and make your party. So it feels unnecessarily restrictive to like force people into a warband to get extra rewards. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what the purpose of this is. We want to replicate the lucrative bonuses and incentives you already receive for running dungeons or heliquaries as a group for the Warband system too. I guess I just don't understand what that would look like. That seems like a very vague, that's like a very vague statement, right? So I'll like reserve my judgment until I see specifically what it is, but I can't even imagine what that would be, right? Huh. This is like the second thing in the blog post so far that I was like, didn't really expect that one, right? Didn't really expect alts to be talked about. And really, I was actually, warbands was such a mess and so useless in the game that I was just kind of expecting them to get rid of it entirely. Okay, yeah. I don't know. Let's keep going. Okay, system updates. Set item improvements. Oh boy. Chris, me and you are going to be best friends. Here we go. Hi all, my name is Chris Zierhut. Thank you for joining us as we continue to collaborate with you on how to improve the gameplay experience of Diablo Immortal. In the closed beta, we implemented a new end-game gear system to enable you to fill your secondary gear slots with set items. When you wore a sufficient number of items from the same set, your character received an additional bonus. Most of you enjoyed the hunt for sets, but we're excited to make more improvements to set items. Hold on, I gotta sip my coffee for this one. Hold on. Right. We're looking at adding new sets to the game, and we'll also be doing a balance pass on the existing sets so that they support and complement particular builds and play styles. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. This is... I knew it. I knew it. I called it. Okay. As an additional concern, we heard that many of you completed a set, but didn't always equip it. Of course, yeah. Why would you? There's too much ORDR. Some of you found the set sometimes wasn't worth wearing. Sometimes? How about, okay, change the sentence from sometimes to always 100% of the time never worth wearing, right? Like, sometimes is underselling it. Because some of the pieces were found at such a low Paragon level that the loss of stats on that item were not sufficiently offset by the set bonus to make it worthwhile. It's kind of the backwards... That's like a backwards way of looking at it. Okay, we'll jump back to that in a second. We're exploring improvements on this front and we'll make changes before launch. Okay, great. So, okay, this sentence reads backwards. Like, this part of the sentence is backwards, right? Like, nobody cares about set bonuses. Like, it's cool to finish the set. But the thing that is most important about this game that is completely not mentioned here is triple stat, triple affix items, right? So in other words, exceptional items with 2 triples on them are the items that you're going for, right? And that is the end game of all items in this game, at least as it existed in the beta. And exceptional items, by the way, are really fun. Right? Like, I don't want anything changed about exceptional items unless, like, there's something to make exceptional items, like, even more, like, random and, I don't know, like, there's, like, a super duper rare exceptional item, like a super exceptional, I don't know. Like, that feels amazing to me. I love exceptional items. I don't know if I would change anything about them. They feel so good, right? So, this sentence it feels backwards to me, right? Because what you really care about first is you care about having a triple. And if you have a triple, that's such a rare find, even for a Giga Blaster, even for someone who is just like blasting the game like 6, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Finding that kind of item is so difficult. You might find one a week, like maybe if you're lucky, right? Maybe like 2, like if you're like super Giga Blasting, 2 or 3 a week, right? Like super hard to find these things. So the set bonus is really just like an extra bonus on top of the exceptional item, right? So what you really need here is like something that already exists in the game, like essence transfer, right? Where you get the triple, and then you put the essence on top of it. Now, let me address one thing about essence transfer that I don't like, is that sometimes it's too easy to essence transfer something, right? So, like, I feel like one of the drawbacks of essence transfer, or one of the great things about essence transfer, is that you can make a new build, whatever build you want, in seconds, and you can just swap your essence over to all the collected essences you have, and once you've collected every single essence, you can make any build you want, right, for legendary items. The drawback to that is that you can make any build you want at any time, and so as you sort of like switch game modes, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this build for this game mode and this build for this game mode, and this is the optimal way to always do it. And you're never like kind of like invested in a particular build, you know? You've never had to like pour resources into it. And I mean, maybe that's the game. That's how Lost Ark does it, right? It just lets you have like a bunch of builds and you can just hot swap between them, and it's cool. And maybe that's the game, right? Is that you just hot swap between whatever build you want, and it's cool. And so maybe you put set items into essence transfer, and that solves that problem, and the game is functioning as intended. But I also feel like set items are maybe like harder to get than legendary items, at least in this game. And so it might make sense for you to have to invest in set items. So let me offer an alternative here, is that when you salvage a set item, you would also get like an essence of the particular set item, right? Of the particular set, right? So like, let's say you, let's go over here and look at mountebanks, right? So like, let's say you salvage mountebanks. When you salvage mountebanks, you could get an essence of mountebank, and then you could apply that essence to sort of like any set item slot, right? So like, let's say you had a triple that was, I don't know, that was I even forget like all the sets off the top of my head, but it was some other set, right? And you applied mountebank's essence to it, and that would transform it into that slot's mountebanks. That would be maybe a good way to do it, because then you've expended that change once, and you've invested some resource into it, right? And so you can't just like hot swap it back and forth anymore. So maybe that's sort of like the difference between set items, which require like a more deeper sort of like in-game investment, and legendary items, which are more hot swappable. Maybe you could have a different feel for those two, or you know, maybe you can just do everything at the essence transfer vendor, and it's nice and easy. Couple of options for you there. Cycle of Strife Overhaul. Oh my god. Is this like... Okay, it's not too long, because I was about to say there's so much to talk about in Cycle of Strife that needs to be fixed. Let's see what they have to say. The past couple of playtests, we've made significant changes affecting the fight for the Eternal Crown, and we're not finished yet. The Cycle of Strife will be receiving a number of changes, not all of which will be disclosed in this blog. Well, I mean, it's like one paragraph. Like, what could you disclose, right? However, there is one key area we did want to focus on in this post. The core structure of the Cycle of Strife will no longer revolve around Dark Houses in a Final Immortal group. Okay, tell me more. Instead, the Cycle of Strife will be based on clans competing with one another. To enrich the social experience, we're empowering your clan with the ability to become a dark clan. Okay, this actually makes a lot of sense. Forming dark houses wasn't very good for long-term social relationships. When every end of a cycle occurred, it caused a jarring upheaval of your social system and network and players. Now, after a player's clan is made, that clan's members will join the shadows together. If that player's dark clan succeeds in besting the other dark clans and overthrowing the immortals, then that winning dark clan will become the immortal clan. Players in an immortal clan will stay together as a unit and can invite up to 2 other dark clans to become immortal allied clans. When the immortals' reign ends, as all reigns must, the immortal clan will return to being a normal clan as the cycle begins anew. This design gives clans more meaning and allows you to form long-term friendships with other players. Wow. Okay, so this is huge. So first of all, I love this. Okay, so the most annoying thing as a leader in the Cycle of Strife was this, like, you have to always be recruiting people, whether for a dark house, if you're in the shadows, or you're a mortal, you're just like battling for people all the time. And there are all these mechanics in the game, which I won't go into, which are like really toxic, right? So like essentially you are like hyper focused on always trying to just like invite people to join your group. You're like, join my group's the best. And if your group wasn't like the very first group to be there, you like kind of miss the bandwagon and people don't join your group, right? Like, why would they? There's this other group that they can zerg that has a full dark house, and if they just slip in there and they can get like a weak player out, then they're already in the best dark house. Like, why would you? It's like this whole thing, and I don't think that there shouldn't not be politics in an MMO. Like there always is. Like if you've ever played World of Warcraft or any other MMO, there's always like, oh well, that guild sucks, join this guild, and there's always like recruiting things. But you just take that up to 11 for what it was like in the beta, and you just were always recruiting people, especially for Immortals. It was so bad to just always be recruiting people and making sure you had like good players and having a good list and having good like long-term social relationships, and like people were basically like incentivized to like leave your group so that they could go join another group, and then that was like, oh, they betrayed us, and it was a big mess. So this is a lot better. This is a lot better. The other thing I like about this is this feels very Diablo, right? So like Diablo is not about guilds like it is in World of Warcraft, right? Guilds are these like very tight-knit social structures. Like these are like people who are already friends in real life, or like people who are like all Giga Blasters, and they're just very tight-knit, and you can never like really get in that group unless you like know somebody or something like that. Diablo is a little bit more loosey-goosey, right? Like it's a clan, it's not a guild. So usually it's a little easier to get in, and people just want to have fun together. It just is, you know, there still are like blaster clans, or they're like Giga Blaster clans, but it's not just friend groups. It's not so tight-knit. It's a little more loose. So they got the names right here, like being able to call something a dark clan and an immortal clan. Like saying that you have clans is very, very smart. I really love how they did that. And the other thing that's really smart is on the immortal side of the equation, right? So like whatever dark clan wins the challenge of the immortal, which I don't know how they're going to change that. That's going to be interesting. But whatever dark clan wins the challenge of the immortal can invite 2 other allied clans, right? So this is I think this is like actually better for the politics of the game, right? So if you have the top 10 dark clans, then now some of these dark clans are like starting to like ally up, and they'll say, hey, if I win, I'm going to invite your dark clan to become an immortal clan. And so instead of dealing with like each individual player and just like trying to get the best players from all of the dark clans and just steal all of the talent for the immortals, now you have to make hard decisions, right? Now you have this choice that you have to make, is that which 2 is going to be part of your like front. And now there's actually a sort of like a hidden option here, and that is if you are such a baller that you actually just have 3 clans, right? So like, I don't know, if you're Asmongold or something, right? Like you have Asmongold Clan 1, Asmongold Clan 2, Asmongold Clan 3, and you have I think the max for a clan is 150 players, right? You have like literally 450 Giga Blasters just absolutely blasting the game, and you just run the whole server, right? Like you could do that basically every other cycle. You could just be the immortal, and you could just run the whole server. So like, I think there probably still are some things to consider. That this is not a foolproof system, right? There's probably still some things to consider, but this is a lot better than the Dark House system because you're not just breaking up the groups every single, like 4 to 8 weeks in the game, which was a little bit jarring. All right, let's move on from this. That's a huge change, by the way. We could keep talking about this for another hour, but we gotta keep moving on. All right, World Paragon Improvements. Okay, there's a lot here. Okay, so first of all, this graphic tells us a lot of information. So in the beta, the way it worked is if you were 5 Paragon levels below the World Paragon. So like in this graphic, if you were Paragon level 95 or below, you got 200% XP and salvage. If you were within that 5, so within that like bracket of 10, you got 100% XP and salvage. And if you're 5 above, you got 25% XP and 25% salvage. And if you're 10 above, you got 5% XP and 5% salvage. Now, what's interesting about this chart, first of all, is there's no salvage on this chart. So that's we have a lot more to read. So I think they might have gotten rid of salvage bonuses and penalties. So that's cool. And then second of all, the extra tier above this is not there as well. Now, I don't know if that means they got rid of it. That would be very interesting. So if they got rid of the 5% XP tier, which would be, in this graphic, that would be like Paragon 110, if that's correct. Yeah. Paragon 110 and above would be the 5% XP tier. Now, if they got rid of the 5% XP tier, then there are some really interesting high-level Giga Blaster strats where you can actually just like keep pushing Paragon every single day beyond the World Paragon level. So I wonder if they actually got rid of that. It's hard to know because it doesn't say in this graphic if they got rid of it. But the other thing that's really interesting here is that this Paragon level is 70 when below World Paragon level. Paragon level 70. So that's 30 levels below the World Paragon. Does this mean, okay, current World Paragon level, 2 levels every day, they're saying that that's 100 and that this is 105. So are they saying here, if I am Paragon 99, I get 200% XP? Or are they saying if I'm Paragon 70, I get 200% XP, and 71, I start getting 100%? See what I'm saying? The way this chart reads, I think it's you get 200% XP until you're Paragon level 100, and then you start getting 100 until you're Paragon 105, and then you get 25% XP until you are 110, and then you get 5%, maybe? I really doubt they got rid of the 5% wall. Just for the record, to my knowledge, we did the math on the 5% wall, and the best available XP per hour in the game means that it would take you like something like 41 hours per day to get a Paragon level at 5% XP. So effectively like impossible to get past the 5% wall, right? So if that's still in the game, then you can't just like boost past this. You can't just play 24 hours a day and boost past this. But that's sort of like a deeper analysis maybe for later. All right, let's read this. Following the closed beta, we've revisited the World Paragon system. As Diablo Immortal, it is an MMO. We wanted a compelling social experience where you can group up every day to slay demons with your friends. We also want no limits on your playtime, no energy systems or similar mechanics to slow down your fun. Thank you. But that leads to a challenge. We want to make sure friends who play different amounts of time each day can still always play together as a team, instead of the strong players carrying the weak ones. In our closed alpha, we tried putting a weekly cap on experience. That approach had its flaws and didn't resonate with our test participants, so we removed it. For the closed beta, we introduced a new catch-up system, World Paragon, intended to keep friends from so far apart in power that they can't play together, and we're improving it further on launch. Once you reach max level in Diablo Immortal, you begin earning Paragon levels, which improve your loot and let you progress along Paragon trees, making your character more powerful and customized. Each server has a World Paragon level that rises by 2 levels each day. If your Paragon level is below the World Paragon level, you gain increased experience. If you are more than 4 levels above the Paragon level, your experience is penalized. You can keep playing, but your rate of gaining Paragon levels slows down. The system worked well in closed beta. I agree, yeah. Actually, this was a great system to keep friends able to play together. But players who played more hours will collect more loot, so we extended the World Paragon system to affect item salvage as well. Yeah. Okay, so this item salvage in the beta, like actually World Paragon for XP, if you like kind of looked at XP in sort of like a vacuum, then World Paragon for XP is actually a freaking amazing system, and I'm surprised no other legitimate, like super great game that I've seen has tried to use a system like this before, because it works super well. It sort of is sort of the best of both worlds. Like instead of having like infinite Paragon, you get this sort of like a cadence of Paragon that you can get. So every day you can get a little bit more Paragon. You can keep playing the game, but you don't have to like super Giga Blast to just like catch up with your friends, right? Like XP is just one of these many different systems that you can invest your character in, and as long as you're towards the XP cap, you're good, right? The problem arose with item salvage. So let's keep reading, because it sounds like they're going to talk about that. Item salvage is a critical part of item progression in Diablo Immortal. It's used to increase the rank of your items, adding additional stats and affixes. When we applied World Paragon experience penalties to salvage received, it led to players in the closed beta avoiding experience, not picking up XP orbs dropped by elite monsters, or completing quests but not turning them in. This was bad. Yep. That's understatement of the year right there. So we're reverting the World Paragon salvage modifiers. Okay, what's that mean? You'll be able to gather items as long as you like, and Paragon levels earned will no longer penalize how much salvage you received. That's... Okay. We did it. We did it. All of the feedback in the beta, like, I think of any piece of feedback I had in the beta, this was my number one. This was my number one, is do not penalize people for being a Giga Blaster. If someone is a Giga Blaster, if they're like Omega tier, like no-lifing the game, do not penalize them for salvage. And this felt so bad. So removing this is amazing. So a question here is like, what specifically does this mean? Does this mean that every source in the game... So let me sort of explain how this worked in beta. If you were... Let me roll up here. If you were at green XP here, you know? If you're green XP, then you get 200% salvage mats from all sources. So that means, you know, if an enemy dropped a yellow and you salvage the yellow, you get 2 yellows. But it also means if you complete an event and that event drops 6 yellows, then you actually get 12 yellows, right? So like every source in the game that you could get salvage materials for, or salvage, would get doubled. And then when you were at 100%, that was at 100%, right? So 6 would give 6. One yellow item would salvage into 1 yellow item. Some things in the game drop 3 yellow items, like events will drop, or tasks, I think they're actually called. Tasks would give 3 yellow items when you complete those. They would give 3 yellow items at 100%. And then at 25%, you would have like a chance, right? So it'd be like if you had like a yellow piece of salvage in your inventory, you would salvage that, and then you would have a 25% chance to get 1, right? So it was as soon as you get to like below 100%, like the math and other behaviors like gets a little wonky in terms of what actually happens. But it also is just it leads to these really weird behaviors in the game where players basically like avoid red XP like the plague, and actually just try to stay in green XP at all times, because it's pretty like, this is just like if you look at the disparity here, this is a 5-level disparity, right? So it's not that hard to just stay like 10 levels below and be at 200% salvage all the time, which is what a lot of the players, eventually ended up doing, was just staying at 200% salvage all the time so that they could get the maximum amount of salvage. Like, who cares if you're 5-10 Paragon levels behind? Like, that doesn't matter as much as getting 200% salvage. Like, doing double the work for someone who's like 5 Paragon levels ahead of you, who cares, right? So this is amazingly good news. This is amazingly good news for the game. But I want to know more specifics about what exactly does this mean. Does this mean that effectively all of the penalties and benefits of getting salvage are completely erased from the entire game? Like, in other words, if I'm at green XP and I go do an event, do I get 6 yellows or do I get 12 yellows, right? If I do a task, do I get 3 yellows or do I get 6 yellows? Do I always get 3 yellows? Is it just like always at like what 100% would be? No matter what, like even if I'm at like 5% Paragon penalty, do I get 3 yellows? I want to make sure that basically, like, in an ideal world, I would hope that the penalties and the bonuses that you got from this are completely erased from the entire game. So I hope this sentence, I hope that's what that means, is that it's always at, 100%. And that any sort of penalties or bonuses are completely erased. However, we still need to slow down how far ahead players can progress by playing the game more, so friends don't get split up by character power. Fair. Our current plan is to increase the salvage materials needed to advance items at very high ranks. This will allow all players to reach rank 16 legendaries, but only the truly dedicated players will reach even higher ranks. Very active players will still be more powerful from higher item ranks and have more choices of legendary and set items, but they won't get so far ahead that they can't play with their friends. We believe this revised World Paragon system will help you play together with your friends and also play as much Diablo Immortal as you want. The community's feedback and engagement has been incredible. We hope our players like and understand these changes, and we can't wait to get this game in your hands. Chris Zierhut, Senior Systems Designer, Diablo Immortal. So first of all, thank you, Chris. This is amazing. These are really good changes. I mean, there's definitely some more changes that need to be done in the Cycle of Strife that weren't talked about. Like, I know we could write about 1,000 pages about all of the things that need to be changed there, but that having dark clans there, super amazing. Let's talk about this. So let's talk about progressing and advancing your item progression, right? So the optimal path to advance your items is thus, right? So you have 6 item slots that you can advance. And so the optimal way to do it is to take your first item slot and rank it up to rank 6. And the reason that you do that is because at rank 6, 11, and 16, you get an extra affix, right? So you get like an extra bonus for reaching those particular levels, right? So you want to reach those levels first. So what you do is you take one item and you go to rank 6. And you take a second item, you go to rank 6. You go to a third item, go to rank 6. Fourth item, rank 6. Fifth item, rank 6. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And do that with all 6 of your legendary item slots. And then after you have all rank 6, then you go to rank 11. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You go to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. You take everything to 11, and then everything has 2 affixes. And then from 11, you take everything to 16. So you go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then blah, 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 blah. Now, some people might choose to rank everything up to 2 before and then double rank up. So, like, an alternate way of doing this would be to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on all of your items. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. And then same thing with 11. You'd go 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. Take everything to 9. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. And then go 10, 11, 10, 11, 10, 11, 10, 11, and so on. And then once you hit 11, it's so important to hit 16 that you basically have to go 11 to 16. You don't really have an option there, right? So that's sort of like the optimal path. So getting to 16 on your items so you can get the family bonus is very, very important in terms of like maxing out your character's power and progressing your character, right? Some of those family bonuses are very, very good depending on like what kind of player you are and so on and so forth, right? So there are a lot of people who already had a really hard time reaching rank 16. So I think, first of all, removing the ability to like penalize, like not penalizing people's salvage basically allows people to hit rank 16 in the first place. Otherwise, it's just this weird sort of like daily grind where you're hitting all of these like maxes and caps and events in the game to hit rank 16, and you're just like needlessly bound by the game to hit rank 16 in the first place. So that by itself is like a fantastic change. Now, adding additional salvage requirements after rank 16, I'm not sure how important that feels to me. Each level of each item level that you would get doesn't give very much ORDR. I think it's like, was it like 6 or 8? I think it's 8. Like rank 16 to 17, I think is 8 ORDR. So 8 times 6 is 48. That's 48 ORDR. It's not nothing, but for the incredible amount of salvage that is, it would take you, I mean, even in the beta, it could take you a day and a half, 2 days to get from like 16 to 17 on one item. And that's with like Giga Blasting and everything. So further increasing that feels, I guess that feels all right to me. I'm not against it. I just wonder, like, for item progression in general, was that like overly nerfed in the beta? It felt extraordinarily weak compared to item progression in alpha. So I'm just wondering if this assumption about rank 17, 18, 19, 20, etc. Is predicated on like previous progression from alpha and not beta, because beta's progression was extremely nerfed in comparison to sort of like alpha progression. And so, yeah, I don't know. I would have to have a look at the precise numbers to kind of get an exact feel for it, but I think this is a way better system than what we experienced in the beta with limiting salvage, even with the like additional salvage required to rank up past rank 16. Okay, finally, thank you to the community. The updates highlighted above do not encapsulate the full plethora of changes and updates that we're working on, but we wanted to share with you some key touch points that many of you had feedback on. To our closed beta participants, we can't say this enough, thank you. Your feedback is so valued by our team. As we move forward, we implore you to continue sharing your impressions and feedback on your experience of Diablo Immortal. Your collaboration is critical in helping us craft a Diablo experience we all expect. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the Our Diablo Immortal subreddit or across our other channels. We appreciate you joining Chris and I as we highlighted these changes and updates in this blog post. Please stay tuned as we have much more to share and explore in the coming months. Wyatt Chang, Game Director, Diablo Immortal. If you want to learn more about Diablo Immortal, check out our website here, or for real-time updates, follow our official Twitter at Diablo Immortal. Heroes of Sanctuary, thank you and happy 2022. All right. Yeah, that's sort of my impressions of the blog post. There's a lot of really exciting news there. Namely, Dark Clans sounds super amazing. Removing salvage penalties, and hopefully that means also removing the 200% bonuses as well, and just making everything like flat 100% across all sources in the entire game. And also a couple weird things in there, like the Warband's improvement. I'm not sure I quite understand what they're trying to say there, or what that really even is. And of course, controller support. I mean, this is without the controller. I'm not sure how much I'd even be able to play Diablo Immortal. Right? It would destroy my hands. Right? Playing and gigablasting Diablo Immortal for, somewhere in the range of like 6 to sometimes 20 hours in a day would just simply not be possible ergonomically if you weren't able to play it with a controller. So being like any other benefit, any other like fixes, even small things like being able to play the controller from the very moment you start your character, these are really super important things that make the game more accessible to more people, and make it a lot more fun. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. What did you all think about the blog post? Tell me about your feedback. If you played the beta, tell me about your experience and sort of what kind of things did this blog post do for you? Did it give you hope for the game? Were there important things that you felt should have been addressed or hope are addressed in a future blog post? Let me know in the comments down below. Until then, my name's echohack. I'll see you later. Peace.